Hey there. All right, so I'll first start with just a little bit of information about how I use Google Sheets to render tables of data in a website. In this particular website, unfortunately, this repo is not public, so I can't just like make it available to everybody, but I can at least show the code for some of it. So the first kind of place to start is that for this site, I'm using more of a block-based builder. So a page is composed of structured data. For example, here's one in content services. This happens to be in TOML format. So if we look at the code for this, this is all TOML data. And you can see that there are these page sections, and for each page section, there's some structured data. For each of these structured data sections. Then we have one here, for example, that's using where the block is table dash CSV. So this indicates which block object to load in here. Um, and with that, I have a few data elements. So I have heading, text, a URL. This is what's going to point to the CSV file. Um, then a markdown description field, and then a footnotes markdown. So the description goes above the table, footnotes below. So I have an ability to have kind of a title, some text above the table itself rendered from this data set, and then this footnotes section, and that's it. And then it goes on to the next one. And we can see an example here. So there's dividend and savings rates, and this is the table, and then this is the footnote section below that. So to do this from the spreadsheet, I use this block table-csv.html. This is just a partial and a blocks folder. It's kind of a different topic, but there is a blocks layout that basically figures out by that parameter in each page section which block to load, and then loads it in and passes the data into the block. So that's what's happening here. So I can get, like, for that section, what's the URL parameter? I set it here. What's the separator for the CSV data? I build a random seed basically that I can use, and then I build a random URL. The nice thing about this is it kind of cache busts the spreadsheet. Otherwise, Google caches requests to the same spreadsheet to the same endpoint. So you can update the spreadsheet in Google Sheets, but if you hit the same URL, you might get the previously cached version of that. So what this does is just gives kind of a unique request, which pulls a unique one. So I just add this um, rando equals and then a little string, which is this a SHA of the seed and whatever. And then I print that out and use that URL and then the string, and then I get a random URL. So it's a combination of that URL all hashed up with a little random uh, seed value. From that, then I use Hugo's built-in get CSV function. So for that, you can pass in the separator and then the URL. It'll return back to me the data, the CSV data object. And then also take the page data and store that in a variable, because I'm going to use that potentially down in some loops or in some with sections, and so I'm going to need access to that. So then the rest of this is kind of standard Hugo code. So I can do something like with the section heading, if there's a heading, put it in here. If there's description markdown, render it here. I'm using the page render string function so that I get any kind of markdown gets parsed and processed and then renders that out here. And then in this div now, I have a table element. In the title of the table, I put in the URL so that if you inspect the table, it kind of tells you where the data comes from, so you can look at it yourself. And then for the head, I basically get the first row of that data C variable, and because I know that my first row is headings, and then I range over that over the headings then. So this is like the first row, and then I range over that, which is each column, and I put in the table header for that and just render that out. So this does allow markdown in the strings as well for formatting. And then in the body, after the first one, range over that data, and for each one of those, range over the cells, and then render out the cell content in the TD, and do that for all of the rows. and then there's a section for footnotes. So basically using this method, you get that. Now you'll take a note here that to get that, you would use your normal spreadsheets um, path, but you put in the export function format equals CSV. So this is what will let um, Google send you the CSV data for a particular sheet um, as a CSV, and and then these are static. So the way I have it set up with the end user is that this particular rate comes from a particular spreadsheet that's just got the rate data in it, and they can edit that. And in fact, some of the fields are computed, like there's a base rate, and other fields are computed based off of that. So that makes it really easy for them to update the rates, and then I just go grab that data. The other thing I did for that is I made a little script for the spreadsheet when I made the spreadsheet that gives them kind of a webmaster menu, and what I have that is like a little rebuild site or update website link in the menu, and all that does is has a function, a little script function that calls the Netlify webhook to rebuild the site. So the idea is that I could have tried to call that on every change, but that could get super noisy to the build tool. So what I told them is once you're finished with the spreadsheet and it looks like you want, then go to the menu and hit it. That'll go tell Netlify to rebuild the site. And when it rebuilds, it'll go pull the latest, data from all the sheets and rebuild the content and publish it. So the workflow is they're just in Google Sheets, they do their work, everything looks good, they go to the menu, say update website, and then that triggers the webhook to rebuild. So that's how I'm using Google Sheets to drive a lot of this. And there's actually quite a bit of content. This particular site has, um, the savings rate stuff in here. They've got these fee schedules. That's all in a Google Sheet. Same thing. There's a lending section that's got a bunch of different their credit tiers. This is a sheet. This is a sheet. This is a sheet. That's another one, right? So all of these, they have a lot of table-based data, and they wanted to manage all of this stuff in Google Sheets. So it made it a lot easier than them trying to come in. Originally, when I did this, I had like data files, JSON data files with the data and the structured stuff. It was just hard. It was kind of a pain. So allowing them access to Google Sheets, which they already had a Google account for, and just building spreadsheets for them, and that's been really good. And then you can control permissions on the sheets to make sure only people who can edit it or who should be editing it can edit it. And that's kind of another permissions based thing. So anyway, that's that. Hopefully that's clear. I'll make another little video on how to use Google Docs as source for the content of a page, but that's that's another topic on its own. So we'll talk about that later. Thanks for watching.